હેલો, મારો અવાજ ક્લિયર આવે છે?
Yes.
ઓકે, થેન્ક યુ. Welcome, Udit sir.
Good morning, Chirag sir. How are you?
Fine, sir.
How
What,
many
sir?
registrations we have?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sir, Parth sir is our chair professor.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Namaste. Good morning. Myself, Parth Sejpal, currently active as the IPR chair professor at Saurashtra University. So we have initiated this monthly one lecture series on IP. Basically, intent for is also joining our creating awareness as well as keeping repository on our YouTube channel, right? So
Okay.
uh, we have discussed that we will be keeping all the varieties of IP topics, basically, not only just basics and patent trademark that are always uh, awareness is always given regarding that
Mm-hmm.
patent and trademark and copyright, but to have different topics on the IP and as a initiative. We have initiated. This is our first lecture. Another lecture is being organized on 29th. So currently we are also sharing it to open channel where everyone can join. But another objective is that we will be keeping it on YouTube channel. So we can keep it as a repository.
Namaskar,
Yes.
sir. Nice, nice. That's very good. Good idea. And it's a lot of burden on me then if it's the
Okay.
first lecture of your whole series.
Right. So it is our
Yeah.
first lecture today. It is
So,
very
Parth sir,
grateful
can
to
you
have.
start, sir?
Yeah, just 2 minutes. Yeah. So it was great to know that you are into the field of plant varieties because it is very limited person or very few are working into this. So great thanks to you for sharing your time and sharing your knowledge on this busy schedule, right? Yeah. Yes, Chirag sir, we'll be starting in 1 or 2 minutes. You can introduce sir, and after that we can hand over the session to sir.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our seminar from Seed to Success. Special welcome and thanks to Vice Chancellor Professor Joshi for always supporting us, always. And also a warm welcome to our Ranjan Khoot ma'am, who is our SPRIHA coordinator who work hard to organize this kind of event. And of course, welcome to all our dedicated staff members. Thank you all for everything you. Today we are talking about for the plant variety protection. It helps us grow food sustainably and ensure we have enough for everyone. The seminar will show us how to use these protections for success. We honored to have Mr. Udit Malik, an expert in this field, here to share his valuable knowledge. So looking forward, please feel free to ask questions with Malik. This is a great chance to insightful journey from seed to success. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chirag sir, for such a lovely introduction. And good morning, everybody. I hope you can see my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you for joining. So, like Chirag sir mentioned, that today's discussion is from seed to success and leveraging plant variety protection in the modern agricultural domain. And I am Udit Malik. Like Chirag sir mentioned, I have approximately 12 years of experience in the domain of IPRs, specifically patent plant varieties trademarks. And lot of different type of aspects apart from IPR, from filing and prosecution, is your contract evaluations, negotiations, employment engagements in the IPR, IDFs, and training of the inventors. All these type of aspects I have taken care of so far in my journey of my career. I'm also an advocate at Delhi High Court. So let's delve into today's topic, and feel free to ask questions. And I suggest that maybe we can take a pause in between, and then you can ask questions. Or in the meantime, you can drop your questions in the chat, and maybe I can take them up at the once we break in between. Chirag sir, this is an okay strategy.
Yes, sure.
Okay, fine. So let's.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we all know that plant varieties protection and farmers' right is something a more disputed domain as well, and as well as it is a less acquainted domain, specifically in India, once we talk about. So in today's session, we will try to understand what it is, more importantly, why it is, and then is there a way to navigate around this that can help for a better future of the country as well as of the humankind. So agenda, what we'll be discussing broadly about the evolution of plant variety protection, how it started. We will also understand the basic concepts of what is a plant variety, how you state that this is a variety and this is different from the other. We will also move forwards to understanding in a very generic format how a new variety development takes place, so that we understand the effort the breeder or the researcher is putting in developing a variety. We will then understand the importance of IP protection in this domain. And there is an international organization called UPOV. What does it do, and how it is harmonizing the policies and across countries. We'll also look a bit more about some of the success stories which has proven that plant variety rights are important. The plant variety rights offer some sort of an exemptions, and one of the most important exemption is the breeders exemption that we will also understand. Following this, we will delve into more technical aspects of what does the PVP or the PPVFR Act of 2001 talks about. We will see some key sections and how it is relevant whenever you are going for filing or enforcing your rights. We will also try to understand emerging breeding techniques and how we can segregate them under the different types of IPR regime. And then if the time permits, we will also try to show you the portal, how we can do a basic plant variety search in India. So broadly speaking, it is divided into two sections. I can hear my echo. Is someone unmute? And now it's fine. So broadly speaking, the whole seminar is divided into two parts. One is the basic concepts of what is the protection, why is the protection, and what kind of the innovation cycle takes place, followed by some technical aspects of the Plant Variety and the Farmers' Rights Act. So before we delve into the basics also, I have this lovely quote which I like a lot, which is from Sapiens, a book written by Yuval Noah. Many of you may have read it. So which says, we did not domesticate wheat, wheat domesticated us. Now, it is a very thought-provoking thing. Now, human civilization starts from with the agriculture. In the agriculture, one of the most important crop was wheat. We humans started to domesticate the wheat, sort of what we say at least, that select the varieties and they start breeding it and then hoarding it. But exactly, we started to fight also for wheat. We started to have more varieties of wheat. So the wheat has survived while humans have started to exhaust and kill each other. So what has domesticated what? It is a question, or at least an explanation. Let's try to broadly ascertain first, are there other types of IPR applicable in a plant variety per se? So the answer to this question would be yes. All types of IPR, whether trademark, patents, copyrights, could be applicable to the final product, be it of any, be it outcome of any type of or any domain of research. So patents absolutely are relevant in the domain of plant varieties. Like a trait is their gene, vector, primer probes are there, detection methods, culture medium, breeding techniques. Obviously, if these are new and non-conventional culturing methods, etc., they can all form the purview of a patents, obviously, and it is also subject to the different jurisdictions law, what is allowed and what is not allowed in these jurisdictions. Trademarks, once you sell the product, you always give it a name. So there's a final product name that can be a trademark. Plant variety itself, which is the focus of today's discussion, it can be protected under a plant variety. So the complete plant itself is protected. Geographical indications. Now here there is no innovation in geographical indication. This is what I always tell. Geographical indication is mostly for its cultural and historical significance, but definitely plant can have a geographical significance if it is grown in that area, such as Darjeeling tea. So any variety of tea, if it is growing in Darjeeling, has to have this type of geographical indication. Trade secrets, any data that the innovator or the breeder does not want to disclose, or some data which cannot be a part of a registered IPR, at least in India, because we don't have trade secrets law. So that can be a trade secret, such as parental lines, markers, raw data. These all can be trade secrets. So in nutshell, to reiterate, all the different types of IPR can be applicable to plants and seeds as well. Then there is copyrights, obviously, which I missed. That description on the label, when you're selling a product, you're going to put a label on it, and those label can also form a part of a copyright, and this could be applicable to your final product in the seeds. I'm sure you guys must have, if you have some sort of agricultural background, going out and purchasing seeds from the retail shop, you see that it all has all this kind of trademark is there, copyright is there, and everything is already mentioned. Let's delve into, in a very brief format, about the evolution of plant variety protection. In ancient times, we all know that agricultural practices started, and in the initial time, we started to select the specific traits that we felt were desired by us, and that is how the agriculture started. And that is where the first slide that we read, whether we domesticated us or we domesticated wheat. It's a pondering thought. So this first step of agriculture, where we started to select specific varieties from the wild and started to grow it in a limited space, and then started to do more further selection and crossing of those varieties, is the first step where variety selection started, and also which led to the provision of maybe a groundwork of a plant variety protection. In the late 19th century, US was the first country which introduced a specific patent law, which is for specific plants, and that's called as plant patent law. And it made that any plant obtained by breeding, and it also says if it's discovered on a barren land and which was not there in the US, is also protected under plant patent. Important thing to note that this plant patent is different from the other patents that are called as utility patents. So US has this aspect of plant patents as well. Subsequently, 1961, because there is a lot of varieties are growing on, and people want to protect the incentives also. So a UPOV convention is established. UPOV stands for International Union for Protection of New Varieties, and which aim to unify the plant variety protection laws, which was scattered across the different jurisdictions. So UPOV, I say, is sort of an equivalent of WIPO, which mostly deals with the patents, trademarks, copyrights, and UPOV deals specifically with plant varieties, because these are different rights, different sort of adjustments are required here as compared to the other IP rights. In 1978, UPOV first revised convention was enacted, and which sort of expanded the scope of breeders' exemption. However, still it was restricted. So in 1961, UPOV is created. First amendment is brought in 1961. Another subsequent amendment is made in 1991, now, which is one of the major amendments which was made in UPOV, and many countries are part of it now. And this further strengthened the breeders' right and also provided provisions for some what we call as provisional protection. And this is the most latest amendment, and we say, or at least many people say, of the international fraternity, it is one of the most liberal format of the UPOV convention. In 1994, we all know TRIPS happened, and India, being a part of WTO, had to sign TRIPS also. And then, because to become TRIPS compliant, it has to enforce IPR rights, which were mentioned there. And to obligate these provisions and its commitment towards TRIPS, India enacted Protection of Plant Variety and Farmers Act, which is called as PPVFR Act 2001. Now, TRIPS provided a provision of having a sui generis system, that is not to copy exactly what is there in UP of 68, 78, or 91, but to have a different system which broadly on the principle of UPOC, but allows the countries to have their amendments or the scope which may suit their agricultural ecosystem. So India adopted a sui generis system, and the key highlight of the PPVFR is the farmer's right, which is very clearly illustrated in the act. So that is where India came, and that is how the journey of plant variety protection right started in India from 2001. And still, it's a comparatively newer act only, and very less precedents we have. Now, let's quickly understand the plant varieties. What is the plant varieties, and is there any importance of developing a plant variety? So when we talk about what is a plant variety, a variety is a domain in the species itself. So you may go back, if you are not from biology background, you can go back to your class 10 and 11 or 9th and 11th, whatever it may be in your times. You have read about the classification. The last bottom is the species. Now within the species, there are subgroups also. In plants, they are called as varieties, and microorganisms, we call them strains. So plant varieties, if you can see at the bottom of my slide, plant varieties are distinct group within a species, and these groups show a unique characteristics of the same kind, and they are mostly there because to meet a specific environmental needs. So let's see this diagram. Here you can see we have roses, we have apples, and we have different types of leafy vegetables or cabbages. Now, this sort of is a plant kingdom because it has all the types of different types of plants grouped together. There is absolutely a scope to further segregate them. So let's go to the species directly, forget about phyla and family. So we can see here, first species level, we have all the leafy vegetables here, followed by we have all the apples here, and then we have segregated all the roses here. So you can see that the species have been segregated, and here we see that there are different characteristics within the species of these particular different organisms. We can say that they are same. So this apple and this apple is same, this apple and this apple looks very, very same. So that means there is an option to further segregation or classification, and that is what leads to the species or of the varieties. So we can see here that these kind of cabbages are clubbed together. Yellow apples, red apples, green apples are clubbed together. Red roses, yellow roses, and white roses. So we can say that this is one variety, this is one variety, this is one variety, and subsequently this is one, this is one, this is one. So you see, let's revisit the definition again. Plant varieties are distinct group within species, essential for agriculture, showcasing unique characteristics that meet specific environmental needs. So the question comes, why a new plant varieties are even needed? The question and the answer lies on these all the news articles which I have taken from various sources. We need to tackle these issues. We know rainfall is unpredictable, it is causes flooding, and then the plants get destroyed, the farmers are ruined. We can see here the area of damage: Uttar Pradesh 27 lakh, Rajasthan 14.5 lakhs, and and it leads to then crores of damages that everybody has to suffer, and it also causes food security challenges. This is again a news article where droughts and farmer suicides are correlated. So pests are there, like bacterial leaf blight, plant hoppers, stem borer, bacterial pest, as well as the insects, which causes a lot of damages to the crops. Obviously, we have one aspect is to use pesticides and everything. That is also one way where the agriculture industry works on. And then developing a variety which itself is resistant to it and can withstand all these future challenges of the world. So these are a lot of challenges that we have to tackle, and that is why newer varieties are required. So why we need plant varieties, let's delve a little bit into more detail. New varieties of plants with features such as improved yield, high quality, resistance to plant pests and diseases are important because we want to increase the productivity. So first, they help. We have to have plant varieties because for the future challenges are more, and then we need to have a better food security. We all know the world is very much unstable, and with today's scenario in the last 4 or 5 years we have seen the instability has just increased. So food security is important. Economic development, we want to increase the income of farmers and we want to increase more global employment opportunities in the field of agriculture as well. So you need varieties which can make sure there is a sustainable long income is there, only then there is a sustainable industry. I think everybody understands this basic economic development model. Global market access, similar to other products, vegetables and crops are also exported and imported, and international market access is important for the developing countries to boost their agricultural economies and the incomes. There is a growth of urban agriculture, like people are doing city landscaping. We have also read a lot about, or maybe hearing a lot about, vertical farming, terrace farming. Now a variety which is growing in the soil with ample nutrients and everything, it is not that variety may not perform well when you are putting it into a plant, or maybe if it's a hydroponic. So you need varieties because of this changes in the urban changes in the requirement of the user who wants to grow it. Environmental sustainability, like we discussed, insect pest, a lot of things causes harms to the crops. For that we uses either pesticides, and definitely more greener option we say is biologics, but still these are outside things that have to be sprayed. So we need, the best answer to it is have a crop which itself has an ability to fight with all these challenges. So environmental sustainability is important. Another example is your rice, which where, because it's a lot of water is required and it is submerged, it leads to a lot of methane emission. So a lot of research is happening in rice which is reducing the methane emission. The similar the one that is also launched in India recently is an example of that kind of an variety itself. So a lot of environmental challenges are there and we want to minimize it. Nutritional diversity, we all know that the fruits and our diet comprises more of processed and everything. So if one fruit and a one variety can give the best nutritional outcome, that can help us to over to have the minimization of the challenge of malnutrition as well. Resilience to disease and climate change, which we discussed, and support for rural community. It's also important because if a rural community, if the person has, let's say, 1 acre of land, it is growing, let's say, 100 quintals only. But if there is a variety which gives 200 quintals, the rural community with a small farmer also can help. So it helps because there is a sustainable ecosystem, sustainable economy is there. A rural communities also become more stronger. So that is the whole concept of a variety, and it also goes back to the first instance when even humans started agriculture and started cultivating and domesticating the varieties per se. So we have understood what is plant variety. We have understood some basic aspects, what is why it is required and what kind of challenges it even overcomes. So what is the innovation flow in plant breeding? That is how a plant breeder works. So innovation flow is generally like this. There is a breeder who will develop a variety. So breeder is anybody. It could be a farmer, it could be me, it could be anybody. So anybody who is doing the crossing and is providing and is developing a variety is termed as breeder. Now the breeder leads to a development of a variety. Then definitely he may grow for the production purposes or not. Ultimately, it will go to farmers or maybe any grower who will grow and harvest the variety or the outcome of the fruit. It could be fruit, seeds, whatever it is, and ultimately it will be sold to the consumer as the final product. So you understand that this is the basic flow. A breeder is there, farmer is there, and then consumer is there. Some interesting success stories that we can see here is of Moongfali and or the groundnut, which is taken from the ICR website. So Raj Moongfali 3, it's a high yielding large seed Virginia branch groundnut, which is grown mostly in the northwest zone, which is Rajasthan, Punjab, and Uttar Pradesh. We have 06320, which is a Spanish bunch groundnut and which is grown mostly in the areas of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. Then we have Phule Bharti, which is also a kind of, you can see Spanish bunch groundnut, and commercially released kari gayi hai mostly in Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh during Kharif season. And Phule Varna is there, which is also released in the 6 different states of India for Kharif season. Then we have Phule Morna is there, which is Virginia bunch, and also released in different states of India for Kharif season. So here also you can see some striking differences. Like this variety is mostly in the west and the northern part of India, while this variety is mostly for Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh, and that too for a specific Kharif season. And this variety is for the southern part of India and for Rabi summer season only. So you understand that a variety, the species has variety, and varieties have unique traits we read and for a specific environmental requirement. So definitely this variety will not perform well if it is grown in north or maybe in the Kharif season, and that leads to the variation, and that is why we require different varieties so that a round year supplies can be maintained, because our plates are changing. We all want continental, we all want if you go to the western countries now, Indian food is easily available, and so is the Thai and the Japanese food, and vice versa, because and those requirements are met when you are having the source of those vegetables and fruits from the country of origin. So that's why the new varieties are important, and these challenges can be overcome. Developing a new variety. So how do we develop a variety? Let's study in very brief. So this is a diagram. So you can see this is a yellow pea, and this is a green pea, and this is a wrinkled one. So once you cross it, the first generation is called as generation 1, and this leads to the formation of, so there is a generation 1, and you can see it is a green pod with the not wrinkled, and which is a straight only. And once you cross this with the self, you get generation 2. Now in the generation 2, you are seeing that one is yellow, one is green, one is yellow wrinkle, and one is green wrinkle. Now your desired trait is this. Okay, it's simple Mendelian genetics that we have studied in class 11 and class 9 or 10. So we had selected this, then we start again this, and we again do the breeding of this with the first generation, and we keep on going further until we find a final generation which has all the varieties uniform in them. So this is your final variety now, you can say, because if you're growing it, it will give the same results. So you can see 1 to 7 generation at least generally it takes when we're talking of the development of a variety. Now we all know that a crop cycle is for 6 to 8 months generally speaking, and then if you want to have 7 generations, it's gonna take like 7 to 8 years. So similar, you can say it's almost equivalent to identifying a sort of new molecule in pharma, which takes almost 8 to 10 years of research and development. And we're talking of a variety development. Generally, of the traditional methods, it talks about 7 generations. So the plant breeding itself has a lot of challenges. It is a long and a very expensive process, and a dedicated manpower is required to do all these things. The challenge is once a variety is developed, it can be easily reproduced, because that's the whole purpose of developing a variety. Once you sow the seed, it should give the same traits. So why would somebody put a lot of effort into this? In the first step itself, it's going to take 6 to 7 or 8 years. If there is, it can be easily copied. No business can sustain. So thus there is a protection mechanism requirement that can provide incentives to the breeder's effort and investment, similar to what we have in the other domains. So This is in brief how we develop a variety. Any questions so far? We can take a short break here. So now we have covered the basic aspects of what is a plant variety, how it is developed, and why a new variety is required. Now the important part, what we are here to discuss today. What is the importance of IP protection, specifically in the domain of plant varieties? Broadly speaking, IP protection ensures a sustainable innovation ecosystem. And the word ecosystem is one of my favorite because it is self-sustaining. This is all what we have read in biology. Ecosystem is self-sustaining, and that is what is always required. So why IP is required? It is because it is a self-sustaining ecosystem. So let's understand the basic of the innovation cycle. And here you can see here, if you start from R&D and innovation is there, but why it will happen? Because you require some funds first. So you infuse money first time, and then you start R&D and innovation. R&D and innovation, positively, let's be very optimistic, it yields a favorable outcome. Now, if it's a favorable outcome, let's say it will give you a commercialization and out licensing opportunity. There will be a revenue obtained, and then there will be investment again. But let's say there is no commercialization or out licensing happening. What will you do? The system becomes disrupted altogether. There is another chance also, there is a failure. Not all the R&D efforts, we all are coming from science backgrounds, and we all know not every experiment is a successful one, and sometimes undesired results even obtained. I think everybody has seen marvels and everything. So when the failure is happening, what do? We can't stop. We need more investments to go back again, and that is where this IPR protection that is where this IPR protection comes into picture. And this is a step where you do IPR protection, because if this is not done, IPR protection, if you have not given to your favorable outcome, there will not be any out licensing opportunity because it is open to copy. Why somebody would come to you to seek something when it can easily copy, and there is no any requirement per se? And when it can easily copy, then where what you will do when there is a failure? So that is where the IP protection comes into place, and the commercialization and out licensing can take place, and ultimately leads to a revenue system which can be used again for the future funding of the R&D, even if it's successful. And as we saw that the challenges are increasing, be it drought, be it insects, be it pests, or be it other sort of nutritional requirements, and we need to do a continuous development efforts, and for that our ecosystem is required. Nobody is going to do charity for always for you or for anybody for that matter. So that's why an IP protection and an ecosystem is required, so that the cycle can sustain and future challenges can be countered by better research. So, what are the benefits of plant variety protection? Because here we are talking of the IPR rights, which means we are talking of the protection. So, increase breeding activities. Because there is protection, it means more people will be able to invest in the breeding activities, because they know there is some sort of protection if there is a positive outcome. So, PVP encourage to do more breeding activity efforts by providing legal protection for new varieties. General availability of the improved varieties, because there is something called as breeders exemption, and varieties can be used for breeding. So if you have, let's say one of you have generated variety X for maybe a wheat, somebody has used variety Y have of wheat, I can definitely use these varieties also, and maybe provide the world with the variety Z, which may be better than these two varieties already available in the domain. So what will motivate me is that there may be some sort of protection I'll get. So PVP leads to a wider selection of advanced plant varieties, and thus benefiting farmers and consumers alike because of the improved yields. Increased number of new varieties will be formed, like I said, X, Y, and Z. So it's not just X's, but in the market, more varieties can be there. And thus it will lead to more agricultural diversity and resilience. And we all know diversity of the gene pool is important for the evolution of any particular organism. So the diversity has to increase. There is a diversification of breeders, which means it's not the conventional maybe one or two breeders which were dealing with this. It's a wide varieties out there. Private players will also come in, researchers will also be there. And then there are some individuals as well who will act as breeders and may be willing to put some efforts in this domain. PVP facilities also provide foreign variety access, because foreign companies and their varieties, they will be willing to provide the varieties in India, provided there are some regulatory aspects to it that we are not going to discuss here. But yes, it will provide more entry to the foreign varieties, because innovations can be used in India or in any country for that matter, wherever the plant variety protection is there. It also provides enhanced competitiveness in the foreign markets, because you know that your industrial standards and the foreign industrial standards are same now. There is a competitive market across the countries, and this leads to a sort of similar ecosystem, let's say in India, and if you're comparing US and the US. So when there's same ecosystem, so it provides sort of a leverage for a more competitiveness in the foreign markets as well. Improved access to varieties. Similarly, because we are having access to foreign varieties, we are having access to a wide variety of varieties, and also there are more varieties being generated because of this diversity being caused by the breeding activity. So there's improved access to the varieties. So in nutshell, effective plant variety protection is essential for encouraging innovation in breeding, ensuring investment returns, and benefiting societies through improved crop varieties. So this is sort of a required stuff if you want to go ahead and have a self-sustaining and a secured environment for different food varieties or the plant varieties. But this is all theory, right? Let's try to understand, is it really making sense? Are there any examples in the world that say that this is a positive results? So I have taken three case examples here. One is of Africa, you can see on my screen. One is of Canada, and the other one is of China. So in Africa, it's a very underdeveloped or a developing country only, or a continent for that matter. Now, before we delve into, I'll just give you some brief thing that African IP regime is mostly divided into two parts. One is of OAPI region, and the other is of Aripo region. Aripo region is comparatively more advanced in Africa as compared to OAPI regions, as Aripo region is more IP savvy. This what has been found. And Kenya is one of the country which is a part of 1991 UPOV and has shown an exemplary outcome of different varieties and incentives to the farmers and the small breeders. So Africa, this is a 2023 article which are talking of the Aripo regions, and the notion. So it says that the notion of marginalization with the introduction of UPOV-based PVP is unfounded. Kenya joined UPOV in 1999, and the smallholders are still growing crops and increasing their acreage, taking advantage of new varieties that have been introduced into the country. It further goes on and says that all the member states of ORP who are members of UPOV have their small-scale farmers and still benefiting from the introduction of new varieties. And this is a very recent article because there are some countries who are still not part of UPOV 1999 or don't have a sui generis system. And how better ecosystem can be made when it comes to the development of new varieties, making those countries self-sustaining in the domain of food, how can be attained. So there is definitely forces there as well who says that any sort of protection is not making sense. But this is a report, we need to definitely research more about it. But this is a 2023 report on the Aripo website, and it clearly says that it is still only increasing marginalized section or the marginalized breeder or the small scale farmers, which are evident in African region, similar to that of the Eastern Indian region. Very small scale farmers are there. they have been benefited. Let's take example of Canada, which is a developed country and has been developed for a couple of times. So Canada signed UPOV 1999 treaty in 2015 itself. So it's been 10 years, and a lot of discussion is happening in Canada whether the Canada has attained its goal or not, because there was a declining incentives. Investments were happening in the domain of breeding. There were a lot of less incentives for the breeders under the UPOV 1978 program. So Canada signed in 2015 UPOV 999, and this is from the Canadian IP websites only. And it says that when, and it took a poll also, there's a lot of detailed research and the analysis on the website. The source is already provided here. So it says that when respondents were asked whether the 2015 amendments provide sufficient IP protection to incentivize investments in plant breeding and the release of new varieties into the Canadian marketplace, 72% indicated yes, they did. So it has held. Now, another thing that they said when they asked that what they have used the incentives and the investments that they have got returned. So they say most respondents invested differently in the marketing of their varieties, which is closely followed by permanent workers for their breeding programs. So like we discussed a problem initially that, is are we talking of somewhere about rural economy is getting uplifted, economy sustainability is there. So yes, that is the fact. At least Canada is talking about it, that the after signing of 1999 UPOV, there is a more investment that has happened, and the breeders and the organizations who have invested in the breeding saying that they are investing in the permanent workers because it is ensuring a permanent revenue system. And I must say Netherlands is also a classic example where the breeding activity has led to a lot of improvements only. Let's go to one of the favorite country of India, I would say, where there's a lot of we learn also and we also compete with them. China. China interestingly changed its plant variety regime in 2020, make it more liberal to introduce foreign varieties. China has done a lot of steps to improve its food security. It has acquired one of the largest agro company in the world, which is a Swiss company also. So China has made a lot of efforts, and in 2025 itself, it further broadened its aspects of the plant variety protection for enforcement also, and it introduced the aspects of EDV. And the whole objective is that the revision is to curb free riding actions through minor modification of existing varieties of the copycat breeding, reducing legal disputes, and the incentivizes genuine innovation. So we can see that three continents we have taken. We have not taken India as a country also. And we can see that in Africa also things are still talking about, people are talking about that it has led to a positive outcome. Canada also saying not just the increased yield and the investments, which is still at an early stage, but still there is a better economical and the job perspectives. And in China, we are saying for more enforcement, China is still reviving its policies, which can be easily enforced in China regarding the plant varieties. So yeah, it does appear that plant variety rights, if provided and if used just like any other IP right, if they are just and fair use, so it does leads to a positive outcome, and all the countries are definitely discussing about it. So yeah, this is the all basic understanding, like I said, we'll be discussing. So again, to recap, what is a variety we discussed, how a variety is developed we discussed. We also discussed the innovation workflow that is there once a breeder is developing a variety. We also discussed why a variety is required, what are the challenges are there in the plant variety in the plant breeding domain for which new varieties needs to be discussed. Then why a protection of a plant variety is required, or why a protection of any innovation is required. We discussed about the innovation cycle and it has to be a sustainable ecosystem. And then we also discussed some of the success story in Africa, Canada, and China, how they are moving up. So now we move towards some of the technical aspects of UPOV, what it is doing, followed by the aspects of plant variety protection and the Farmers' Rights Act. So what is the overview of the UPO functions and goal? So the mission of the UPO is to promote an effective system of plant variety protection for societal benefit. Obviously, I would say every organization has to have a social goal to attain. So yeah, that is what UPO goal is there. Its also objective is to have a legal framework development so that there is an administrative support for the international plant variety protection cooperation and harmonization of the laws can take place. Assistance to states, all the countries who are part of UPOV are getting assisted by UPOV on how to have their structures of the policies, how to effectively implement this, examination processes, how the examination process of one country may be used by the other country. And that is also happening if you are a member of a UPOV, which India is not. Public awareness enhancement is also an aspect which UPOV takes very seriously to update people about the what is a plant variety, what are your rights, and what are the exemptions so that new varieties can be created. So this is the broadly aspects of the UPOV. Now, protecting a new variety and key requirements. So let's now understand in a bit more detail what is a variety. Is anything, if I have a plant in my barren land or something, will it qualify as a plant variety? So the answer is no. There are some benchmarks that your variety has to meet, only then you can qualify your variety as a new plant variety. Similar to the patents, like you have, it has to be novel, it has to be inventive, and it has to have industrial applicability, provided some other statutory requirements. Similar in the trademarks, you say it has to be novel, and it should not define your product or services per se, and definitely it should not be of somebody else. So that is defines your trademark. And similarly, we have some qualifiers in plant varieties as well. So what are those qualifiers? So here you can see one is novelty, there is a distinctness, there is uniformity, and stability. So what is novelty? Novelty is anything. It means that that anything which is not there in the prior use is novelty. So new plant varieties must be novel, meaning they have not been previously sold or made available to the public. So that is novel. Distinctness, what is differentiated? So it means that the variety must be distinct from an existing variety, showcasing unique characteristics. Just take your mind back to the slide where we had segregated the varieties of apple, roses, and the cabbages. So you could see that green apples were separate from the red and the yellow apples. So each variety must be distinct from the other variety and should show a unique characteristics. Uniformity, the variety should maintain uniformity in its characteristics across different plants within the same variety. So we saw the pea where the variety was there. One was yellow, one was green and wrinkled. And the seventh generation we had, all the peas which were produced in the seventh generation were green and straight only. So it should, all the varieties in the same group should exhibit the same characteristics and should not be differentiated. So it has to be uniform. If I take a seed and the fruits are coming out of it, all the fruits has to be talking about the same thing. It means should have the same characteristics. Stability, plant varieties must be stable, meaning their traits remain consistent over successive generations. So ultimately there has to be a novelty in your plant varieties, followed by it should have the dust test should be met, which is it should be distinct, it should be uniform, and it should be stable. So let's understand. So this is a distinctness. You can see the apple example which we were discussing. You can see there are various of apples. So there's is all the varieties have to be different. Then we can't say that they all belong to the same variety because these are different and their characteristics are different. Uniformity, so you can see if I have plotted a seed, all the roses and all the height of the plant, width of the plant, leaf structure, flowers, petals, everything is same, so it is uniform. Whereas if a variety is lacking uniformity, you will see that height is different, colors are different, leaf width is different, so everything is different. So this is not a uniform variety and it does not qualify as a variety if you say it's a variety. Stable variety. So this is your original material. So you purchase 10 seeds from the market and you sown it. It shows this pattern. But when you resow it again, you say that all the varieties till generation and whatever it is, it has to have the same traits. Only then it is a variety. Unstable variety will be something like this, where you have original material, then you have other materials where you can see here one is pink in nature and have a white leaf. Then we can see further generation more segregation is happening. It's a simple segregation of the mineral characteristics. If you are a biology student, you may be knowing about it. So a stable variety is the one where all the varieties leads to the same traits, and unstable variety is the one where with the generation passing the variety traits are not same and causes challenges. So it should be distinct, it should be uniform, and it should be stable. Another aspect is it should have a name. Whenever you have developed a variety, you are supposed to give it a name, and that is called as variety denomination. Now, very interestingly, that this variety denomination is also protected till the term of the variety is protected. So it is a name also that has to be given, and the variety denomination is there. And ultimately, obviously, there are some formalities and payments of fees which has to be met so that your variety can get registered. So reiterating again, there's novelty followed by dust test, which is distinctness, uniformity, and stability. Then you give, once you have all these things so qualified, you know that this is a variety now. So you talk about variety denomination, and then there is formalities. Any questions so far?
So few questions are listed, but you continue and we'll be taking questions at the end.
Okay, sure. So now we move towards breeder's exemption, breeder's right, and the breeder's exemption. So only the original breeder of a new plant variety can secure its protection, ensuring the integrity of agricultural innovation and diversity. And that is the right of a breeder. Similar to in patents, there is a right of an inventor, right? So only the inventor has the right to be called as inventor. Similarly, a breeder who has developed a variety is called as breeder and has the right to use it. So what are breeder's exemption? One is breeding other varieties, which is one of the most important exemption. Just so breeder's right is there, which is talking about that a breeder has the right to breed other varieties, which means that if I'm a breeder, like I said, if somebody has developed a variety X, somebody has developed variety Y, I have the right to use X and Y also in my breeding program and to use it to develop a new variety. So that is the breeder's exemption. There is another experimental exemption is also provided, which is similar to what we have in patents as well, that any act which is done for experiment is exempted. So this is the UPO 1991 regime, which is the most recent one, which we discussed that Canada signed in 2015. Acts of private and non-commercial purposes, that is, if act which is done in private and is for non-commercial purposes such as for amateur gardeners, sustenance farmers, etc., they say as of UPO 1991 that is also exempted. Now there is a dispute in the UPO whether the farmer can now sell the variety or not. So in UPO regime it's not clear, but in India we have very clarity. Farmers' rights are very much preserved. Next is farm safe seeds, again, which is very much optional as per the UPO regime, which means that a farmer has a right to save the seeds and can use it for the further sowing. So these are the few broad exemptions which are available in the UPO, which is breeder's exemption, experimental, act of private and non-commercial purposes, and farm safe seeds. So further understanding breeder's exemption with the help of this diagram. So you said this is a breeder one who has this variety. and there is this protected variety. Okay, the breeder one has this protected variety. Now breeder 2 is there and its protected variety is there. Now there's a third breeder. Now can a third breeder use because it is protected? The answer is yes. The breeder can use these varieties, can do the selection further, and can develop a new variety. So like here we say, for this breeding of variety A, protected variety A and variety B, which in this case is not mentioned as protected, authorization of breeder 1 is not required, and authorization of breeder 2 is also not required. And again, once you have the final variety outcome after 7 generations, again, authorization of breeder 1 is not required and authorization of breeder 2 is not required. Now, there is an asterisk here which is talk about very slight aspects is there of essentially derived varieties, which we do not want to discuss at this stage. So the UPOF convention, it allows the breeders to use protected varieties for breeding without authorization, fostering innovation and diversity in crop development. So here you can see here. So if I'm a breeder, I have freedom to use any of the variety which is there in the market for crossing and development of the new variety. Now we move towards the protection of plant varieties and farmers' rights in India. So definition of plant variety protection is means it is main aim is to provide an intellectual property regime with the safeguarding of new plant varieties. And remember, all the laws are made with from the time and with some context and pretext. Nothing is written forever in the world, and these can change as well. So purpose of the act was to ensure farmers and breeders' rights are recognized and protected. Because in constitution, recognition is first and very most important thing. Accordingly, the interpretation of the law also takes place, and that's why the law is clear that we're talking of the recognition and the protection of farmers and the breeders' rights. So PVP importance in agriculture, like we discussed, it encourages innovation by granting exclusive rights to breeders over their plant varieties. Benefits to farmers, because if more investment is there, ultimately better varieties are there, and the farmers will have more access to better seeds, their yield will increase and their income will also increase. If they have the varieties which is not getting destroyed because of drought or climate changes or pest attack, obviously the farmer is happy and a long lasting ecosystem is there and economy is also there. Encouraging agricultural innovation. So another aspect is to provide a legal framework which can boost innovation in this domain. Balancing interest. This is that's why one of the most interesting act in the world, which balances the interest of farmers, which is sort of an end user as per the ecosystem we define in India, and the breeder or the private players who are investing in developing the new varieties. So the key features of this act is farmers' rights specifically. When we talk, it is to ensure the protection of traditional practices while promoting new plant varieties. Because we know that in India, agriculture is India is one of the places where the civilization took place. So we have a lot of history. So if there is a traditional practice that is protected under the act, and nobody can go and claim some sort of their own protection, and can seek infringement against the activity. So it has the provisions that promotes the new plant variety while maintaining the protection of the traditional practices. The act is very clear that the farmers have the right to save seeds from their harvest for future planting and promoting sustainability. Like we read in UPO, it was an optional step. In India, the act is very clear that the farmers have the right to save the seed and use it for the future planting as well, because it's required for sustainability. And the right to use seeds, again, is very much explicitly mentioned in the act, which says the farmers have the freedom to use seeds for planting without restrictive regulation. So nobody can go and sue farmer that why did you plant it. Farmers also have the right to exchange seeds. Farmers have the right to freely exchange seeds among themselves, because that has been the practice in India for so long, and thus fostering a community resilience. Benefit sharing provisions. The Act also says the farmers are entitled to share in the benefits derived from the use of the plant varieties that they have developed. and participation in decision making. The act fosters that farmers should come and take and participate in the agricultural decision making processes so that their voice can be heard and whatever the challenges they are facing that can be discussed. So once we understand the farmer's right, let's see the basic filing process. Similar to any IP regime, the filing process first is the documentation preparation. So you gather all the necessary documents required and then file an application. Submission, you will submit it to the relevant authority, followed by examination. Now, examination, unlike your patents or trademarks or designs, it is not that. The authorities take your seeds, they then plot it, they grow it into the land. There's a requirement of what crop, what seeds has to be there, and then whatever the characteristics you have given to them, then they evaluate whether the grown plant is meeting those characteristics or not, and the dust criteria is also being met or not. If it is being met, then they say that it is okay, and then your application is open for objection. So it's not just theoretical reviewing of whatever you have written on the paper. They actually take your seeds and grow it, and thus it further delays the examination process 2 years. And then ultimately there is an approval notification, which will be issued by the plant variety authority, or if there is any sort of objections or rejections, they are also raised. Coming to the key sections of the Act. So the registration of plant varieties, section 4 to 15 of the Act talks about the registration, application procedures, and the right conferred upon registered varieties. Section 39 to 42 of the Act specifically mentions about the right of farmers and talks about it can save, use, exchange, and sell seeds of the registered varieties. Infringement and penalties, section 57 to 16, which talks about including fines and imprisonment in case there is any sort of infringement has been observed. Then section 28 specifically deals about the breeder's exemption. That is, the breeder has the right to use the protected variety for its breeding activity so that a new variety can be created. Section 45 also talks about the import and export of the registered variety and how this may also contribute to an infringement and who has the right to export and import. Section 30 talks about the research exemption. That is, any variety can be used and the purpose for research purposes, and that does not infringe any kind of the rights of the breeder. So these are the some major sections of the Plant Protection Variety and Farmers Act. So key terms to remember. What is a farmer's variety? A farmer variety is a variety which has been traditionally been cultivated or conserved by the farmers. In India, it is one of the major section of the variety registrations that are getting registered. And farmers are very creative in India. An example, we can always see basmati is absolutely the case. We have so many varieties of basmati and the other rices. One of the recent historical examples of the Alfonso mango. So we all know that it was a crossbred of various varieties in Western coast. If there are many regions who have their varieties, and farmers are still coming up with newer varieties of mango. So farmers have been traditionally cultivating and conserved by farming, and they also generate new varieties. Extant varieties, a very interesting concept brought into the Act. It means the varieties which are already known in the market, and they are also distinct, stable, and uniform than the varieties which were widely available. But because the Act was not there, okay, so it may not get protected, or it may not have that recognition. So there is a provision of an extant variety. So it is not a novel variety, but it definitely a dust qualifies for dust, and thus it can be protected under the extant variety. Another concept is of EDV. So like in China, we read about in 2025, they have made it more clear what is an EDV. Indian Act do talk about the EDV. It talks about essentially derived variety, which means a, a variety which is created by a breeder. Now another variety is created from the use of the breeder's variety only. But the traits are very, very similar. It's not same, but similar to that of the breeder's protected variety. So in that case, it is called as an essentially derived variety. And since it is very much similar to the parental variety or the parent variety, the breeder's right are not exhausted in this case. So it is basically so that the copycat, which the China version we were reading, so the copycat aspects of the breeding activities can be stopped. And UPAV also gives a lot of emphasis on the essentially derived varieties. Protection duration for trees and vines in India is 18 years, and for other crops it's 15 years. And yeah, in India it's not a discussion, much of a discussion at this stage. But yeah, outside India, many countries are trying to, some countries even have higher years of protection, while other countries are also debating whether the protection years should be increased so that investment can be boosted in the domain. Novelty criteria, again, if it's in India less than 1 year, it should be used in India. For it's outside India, it's for trees and vine less than 6 years, and for plants it's less than 4 years. So let's say there is a variety which is used in, let's say, Canada or United Kingdom for 2021. Today it can be protected, but it cannot be protected if it's normal plant after 4 years, and if in the case of trees and vines after 6 years. But if it's a variety in India which is in the market, you cannot file the registration of same in India after 1 year, because then it will not qualify under the criteria of novelty. So this is all about the Plant Variety Protection Act and the farmers' rights key features. Now, what else we are talking about? The breeding is not same as it was previously. You take two varieties, cross them, and then you do a lot of mathematical calculations, maintain tables, everything, and ultimately you will be having an outcome after 8 to 10 years or 7 years, whatever the case may be, depending on the life cycle of the tree or the plant. But new age breeding techniques are there, which are making the process much more simpler and are addressing the future agricultural challenges effectively. So like we have genome editing, we all know, like a recent example, we were talking of this rice, which is launched in India. So we are able to mutate the crop gene. For earlier, it was random mutagenesis, which was mostly created. Now we have the help of CRISPR, which is making the mutation, causing mutation very much easy. And thus gene editing is one of the aspect. Another is the digital application. Breeding definitely is done on the ground, but then softwares have been developed to put the data, find the traits, find the phenotypes that may be better to cross, and have the outcome. So there are a lot of digital application which have streamlined the breeding processes and data collection. Data analytics, so which enhances the decision making. So reducing a lot of human efforts, and they're specific to the specific activities, which is leading to ultimately increased efficiencies. Even now, breeding with these emerging technologies, we are hopeful that breeding complete cycle can be done in a laboratory as well, or maybe if it's a hydroponics, again in the hydroponics labs only. So yeah, there is a lot of increased efficiency we are talking, thus reducing the time frame. There is a better accuracy because of the involvement of modern technologies. There is a global collaborations in plant breeding happening. So like Netherlands is sort of a global hub for all the plant breeding activities, and I have been part of some of the international collaborations when I was part of a big organization. So organization in India, Thailand, Southeast Asia, Western countries, they are collaborating so that a better future can be generated. So in nutshell, it's again the slide number 2 or 3. So what kind of research are there, and let's now classify it specifically we have done. So if it's a conventional plant breeding of varieties are released, it is only protected under the Plant Variety Protection Act in any country for that matter, provided there is no any other law. Like in US we have plant patents. In Australia also there is no plant patents per se, but plants can be protected if it can qualify the aspects of inventiveness and novelty and the other aspects. If you're using molecular tools of breeding like markers, methods, processes, etc., only protection you can get is patents. If you're doing a trait discovery such as gene mutation or marker, again, the protection can be in the patents. If it's a GM or genetic engineered traits such as with the help of CRISPR, transgenics. Again, the of protection is in the patents only. Phenotyping tools, like we just discussed, the protection will be in the patents. If there is a bioinformatics and the AI based tools which is able to map your genome, find the markers, etc. stuff, it's again a domain of your patents, which is the software algorithms. Again, in India, software algorithms are not patentable per se, but then if it is a part giving some enhanced efficacy, etc., efficiencies, their advantages are there. There is still a scope. Agronomic practices and formulations, we all know that these are patentable subject matter. Formulations, biocide, pesticide, insecticides are all the aspects that can be patentable in India. So you can see that a plant is not just when you are thinking of a plant variety, it is not just the plant variety itself. It may have other aspects of it. And I think that is where the case of Monsanto was also being discussed, that whether the variety, the plant does not is patentable, and which is absolutely right. But then the trait is the patentable subject matter. But then how the practicality takes place, how it should be interpreted, those are the very far-fetched questions. So yeah, that's all about the basics of the plant variety rights, plant protection rights. What is a variety? What are the challenges? Any success stories are there? And what does India legislature actually talks about farmers' rights, breeders' rights, etc. So I stop here, and now we should move on to the Plant Variety Authority website, where we'll show you some basic aspects of searches and what does it look like. So I also show you the form number 1 of plant variety protection right. This is the sample form. So you can see here form number 1, which is talking of the application of registration of a new variety and extant varieties under the Protection of Plant Variety in Farmers Act 2001 and so on and so forth. So one is you identify whether what kind of applicant you are, like I said, individual breeder, successor of a breeder, or an institutional applicant, assignee. Who is an assignee? Like in patents, you have applicant. Similarly, we have assignee here. So an inventor assigns the right to its employee or to anybody else who has acquired the rights. Similarly, breeder can assign the rights to anybody who pays him or maybe purchases the IP, or if it's an employee, it's an employer. So whether it's a convention country and the other. So here you can see the definitions of these are also mentioned. So if you're a natural person, you mention all your complete address, nationalities, and the Aadhaar card number. And followed by, in the case of the natural person being an employee, then you have to mention the who is your authorized person, etc. That all you mention. Place of business, types of varieties, like we discussed, whether it's a new variety or an extant variety. Extant variety is something which is already in domain but was not protected, but still is a test variety. Classification of the candidate variety, whether it's a typical variety, hybrid variety, transgenic, or the others. So typical variety means a variety which is not a hybrid or essentially derived variety, normally propagated by using propagules, say from the previous crop production cycle. So which is mostly for the farmer's variety. So then you have to define what is the DUS feature that you're talking. Like I said, the authority is going to review your DUS feature, then grow the seeds, and then we'll do the mapping of your DUS features with what you have claimed. What is coming on seeing on the ground. So you have to give your complete detailed analysis of the DUS, and then there is a technical questionnaire that you have to fill, sign, and seal. Then if a new variety is a transgenic variety, then you have to go for the biosafety clearance and you have to submit that as well. So who is the breeder or who have bred the candidate variety, that also you have to mention. Details of the other applications on the candidate variety in case you have made in any other countries or the convention countries. So priority cups, since when there is a priority, like you want to say it's being developed on day X, similar to patents or trademarks. What is the first date that you want to put here? Has the candidate variety been commercialized or otherwise exploited? Yes or no? And if yes, then you have to tell the first date of first sale date, like we said. If it's developed in India, 1 year time is there, so you have to mention that. In any other country, you have made the protection. You have to mention what is the denomination. Like we said, every variety has to have a name. What is the trademark used, if any, for the same variety? And variation in important trade with respect to the first filing in case this is a continuing application or something. So if there is any sort of variation, mention about it. If the candidate variety is the hybrid state, whether all the parental lines required for the repeated propagation of hybrids are bred exclusively by the applicant. Now, this is a very much important declaration because sometimes in some varieties, what happens, you require parents and you have a hybrid. So, from where you have acquired the parent line, it's important. Only then it should be clear whether the IP has been stolen from somebody else or not. So, the form at least says that you have to tell whether the variety has been parental lines also developed by you or it has been acquired from somebody else. So you have to give the details of the parental lines as well. Then you move further sections, which is talking of the whether it's a farmer's variety or the variety of common knowledge. It further mentions the protection of the Plant Variety Act, so provides access to benefit sharing of the farmers. So in case it is derived from the farmers, then what sort of farmer or community you're talking about, so that the benefit sharing can go back to that particular community. If it's an exotic germplasm, then from where you have taken it, give the details about it. Then there is a fees, etc. you have to do. And then this is the declaration that has to be signed, followed by a detailed questionnaire again. So this is what does a basic form looks like. Now let's go to the website. Just a moment. So this is the plantauthority.gov.in is the website where you can get access to the information of the plant varieties in India. And you can see here you have home, about us, talks about all the people who are working here, task force. There's guidelines, application details, publications, plant variety journal, which is published generally once in 3 months. Sometimes they are efficient, they are publishing in a year also, in a month also. So similar to you have journal in patents and trademarks, we have a journal here. For accordingly we have to file an opposition in case some variety you feel should be opposed. Then what are the media and all the other aspects. Let's go to the application details once. So here you can see there are two types of tabs. One is the list of registered variety certificate and the trace of application status. Registered variety means that the application was accepted and has been registered. So if you just open to the list of registered variety, so you can see here a table is there which is updated as per this is May 2025. And here you can see this is the registration number 1 of 2009. Certificate number is there. Like you can see, we have read about the extant variety. It is an extant variety, means notified variety. There is a denomination which is called JKBS26. Then there is a crop which is called millet. We have a group crop. We have the name of the applicant. What is the category of an applicant? is mentioned. Then you have application number, date of filing, and so on and so forth. Similarly, you will see these are the lot of varieties by ICAR. I'm sorry. So you can see next page also we have IC here, and so on and so forth. You have so many different varieties which are registered, and then if you go to the application status, which just allows you to search for the application in case you have filed something and you want to check its status. Again, this is not so robust so far, but yeah, still is working. Initially, it can help you. So let's say let's search by the name. Let's say Rajdhani. So we don't get anything. Let's search by maybe JK Agritech, which is so. It's not finding anything. Some issue appears to be here that it is not finding it's an applicant name. So yeah, generally it works. It gives you the outcome here in the page and about the details of the application. I'm not sure why it's not giving any output right now. Now let's go and read the plant variety journal first, which is getting published on a regular basis, and is the only tool to understand if a new variety has been accepted by the authority or not. So like here you can see they have become active now. They're publishing on the monthly basis. So if you see the latest journal, and it's in both the language, like any other Indian document nowadays, English and Hindi. So first is Hindi, then you go down. Here it is. So first in this journal, what you see is it just mentions about the extant varieties which are notified in this extant varieties about which the terminology is there, and the new varieties whatever is there. So they are writing a letter to the applicants seeking the parental lines of the extant varieties. Again, you can see here it is specific for the applicant about the following variety, which is an extant variety. Then the list of applicants which were closed in as follows. In the past, what happened? The applications which were closed because of the registration certificate is issued to them. The list of the applications which are withdrawn. So Rasi Seed withdrew its application of this one. Okay, then we have which are abandoned by the applicants. So you can see here this is the list of applicants, and this is which are published in this journal and is calling for the objection in any form person in the matter. So you can see here the acknowledgement number, which is the application number, followed by the denomination. Here you can see the crop, grapes, tetraploid cotton, sugarcane, etc. Which is a type of variety. Here you can see it is a farmer variety, farmer variety. So like I told you, in India, a lot of varieties are farmer varieties. Some are grapes variety, though it's a new. You can see it is being given name like Manjari, Madhura, and all that stuff. Once you scroll down, let's see an application detail how it is published. So this is an application which is number this filed on so and so date by Mr. Prashram Yashwant Erandol, and from the Dasgaon district in Sangli, and it is relates to a grape. It is a farmer's variety. You can see here the passport data is the one that gives you the complete idea. It is a Yashwant seedless. Name of the applicant is mentioned. What is the address is mentioned. Application detail, when it was received, when it is accepted. Date, type of variety has to be defined. Classification of the variety is there, and so on and so forth. You can see, and this is where the grouping characteristics are there, which is your dust characteristics that the applicant had mentioned in the application and are also mentioned in here, which was confirmed by the authority. Similarly, let's go to some other application, which is, let's see some applicant here. So like this is an application by Newsy Video, which is one of the leading seed company in India, which is by, so the application number is so and so, which is filed by Cotton R&D Newsy Video Limited, and the address is so and so. Let's see the passport data. So the applicant is mentioned as Newsy Video Seed Limited. We have survey of number 69, Kandakla, Koya. Then we have application detail. And classification of variety, you can see it is mentioned as a transgenic variety as well. Right, so the denomination they have mentioned is NCS 858B2, which is the name of the variety they have given. Now, this is the parental line that has been disclosed. And like we saw in the form, who owns the parental line, they have disclosed it is owned by them only. So it is not acquired from any other party or, taken from any third sources. And then we are talking of what are the characteristics. Here we can see the leaf shape is there. We have flower yellow, we have flower which is cream, and so on and so forth. We have distinct characteristics which are talking about the plant height, which is semi-dwarf. Plant growth habit is compact. Ball weight is there, and there are another distinct characteristics from the reference variety is also mentioned. And then attributes is in the case of the commercial attribute that you have to mention. So it's 750 gram to 1 kg per acre is the attribute. So then you can see further details which are there. So this is how it generally looks like, the journal, and you have to go through it in case you think something you maybe would like to oppose, or have some aspects that you want to discuss. Now there is one more thing that I would like to show is the guidelines. So you can see here the crop dust guidelines are there which are mentioned, and that is how the dust tests are performed by the authorities. So you can see here there are around only 150, 60, okay, they have increased now. There are 204 crops for which the dust guidelines has been defined. And you can see here some of the flowers also, like ashwagandha, like jasmine is there, like dahlia is there, and then you have the vegetables as well. Coffee is also there, poplar is there. So let's open anything, let's say open tomato, and see what kind of dust guidelines are there. Let's go to the English part. Yeah. So you can see here that how the test seed material what material is required and how the test will be performed. It says the minimum quantity of seeds of varieties, hybrids, and to be supplied is for an open field cultivation 15 grams of each variety, and if it's a greenhouse cultivation it is 8 grams. Okay, and then the germination capacity, moisture content, generic purity is also defined here, that has to be there. How the test will be conducted is also defined specifically. Let's see, the plot design is also there, bed size is this, number of rows are this, so and so, row length is there, row to row distances, etc. is there. Then you're talking of the methods and observation, how it will be done. So here you can see that for the assessment of the uniformity characteristics, it will be population standard of 1%. And let's scroll down. You have here the growth stages, and which have given the specific code, and those at these specific stages, the observations will be recorded. So then you will be doing the grouping of the varieties, and that's how it will go forward. And then these are the characteristics which will be measured. So here you can see the stage of the observation, which we just discussed. This is the stage of the observation, and at this stage, what will be the characteristics that will be measured, and then what will be the state of that, like what will be the ranking of same, whether it's absent and present. In the case of the point number 3, plant growth, which is taking place at the point number at the stage 50, it will be mentioned as determinate or indeterminate. And the example varieties are some of the sample varieties which have been used to make this benchmarks. Yeah, let's try once more if we are able to search the applications. No, somehow the portal is not working, it appears. And recently the portal has started accepting the online applications as well. So this is the portal, and again there are some challenges occurring here. So I've not used it for past couple of months, but yeah, there are. But it appears to be a good initiative, and it has also reduced a lot of time in filing, sending the hard copies and everything to the authorities. Similar provisions authorities have taken, IPDPIIT has taken, and the corporates as well. Another important thing that the Plant Variety Authority is not under the DPIIT, but it's a part of the Department of Agriculture, uh, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, Government of India. So yeah, that's all about the major aspects of the plant variety protection, what it is, what is the framework in India, how you can do a search, what is the authority, and how do they work. I think that's all specific. Now we can jump towards question, right? Hello. Yes, Pallavi.
Yeah, thanks, Udit sir, for the wonderful presentation. And we are totally new to this plant variety protection registration kind of thing. And I think since students are joining, my question may be somewhat towards the difficulty level. But I have some curiosity about the Monsanto seed case. Can you please brief it up so that importance of farmers' rights is always considered in Indian legislature? So it will throw some
Mhm.
light. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I'll touch that part in very brief. So Monsanto seed case is, I would say, in my opinion, farmers' right is being outplayed by some of the seed players only. It is not by the farmers per se. So Monsanto cases that they have a BT cotton, and that's a trade, and that is incorporated into the plant variety, and that is being given to the other suppliers in India, and which are again the local seed industries, and then they are in subsequently supplying it to the farmers, and they are growing it and selling it. Now what basically initially happened is that there was some sort of challenge happened on their royalty negotiation, that some assertion, one of the aspect was that Monsanto is giving its subsidiaries the royalty rate, which is lower as compared to what is being given to the other parties. And then they said, no, we will not abide by the contract. And then they just started challenging the IP rights, that there is no patent only, and the royalty right cannot be associated with all the crops and everything. So that is what happened here. And the farmer's right is being played because one of the argument is, if the other players are not able to provide the seeds to the farmers, then it may lead to further challenges. So yeah, that is in basic about it. However, farmers' right is important in India, and the farmers' right, I think, is where that you cannot sue the farmers directly. It's not very easy to sue farmers in India, and definitely that is the object of the act as well. But IP right plays better when you are having the commercial players being tackling with each other, and that is the ecosystem I think the act also wishes to have in India. And that's what, let's see what happens in Monsanto case, because it has been remanded back to High Court. I think similar case, the more interesting aspect is of the Coca-Cola Lay's case, where we have seen that farmers ultimately they had to negotiate with the farmers, and because it's not so fair to sue the farmers until there is established economic entity or something like that. And then it's not US where you have such a broad aspect to so anybody and anyone and everyone. Yeah. So that's the case. And India, we don't have much precedence, honestly, of all the infringement also. In infringement, there is just one recent case that has happened with Advanta, and I think one more seed company is there where Advanta alleged that there is infringement of their rights are happening in Hyderabad. And the court granted an injunction given the upcoming growing season that there is appears to be a prima facie case of infringement, and hence the other party is not supposed to use that particular variety in the market. And they also said that one of the argument is that we are selling those varieties, those crops at a lower rate as compared to what the applicant or the plaintiff is selling. And the court made a clear observation that IP right infringement is about infringement and not about the selling price, and that is actually all about the IP. Otherwise, let people copy stuff and then sell about each other's stuff in the market. So yeah, I think it's still very naive stage in India, very naive in fact, less precedence, and I think this Advanta case is also one of the recent, one of its kind in fact. Yeah, that's in brief. Any particular thing you would like to ask in this part?
Hello, participants. If you have a question, please drop it in the chat box or feel free to ask. You can ask.
Okay, I see that in chat box there are some questions. One is how to identify that this variety is new or already known. Like we discussed that this is the Enders test has to be followed, which is novel, distinct, uniform, and stable. And once it is stable, it's once it is identified, and you are confident with the help of a reference variety, then you can say it is a new variety and can be qualifying under for the registration. Another question is what type of plants are incubated in plant variety registrations? Fruits plants, flower plants, herbs, trees, creepers, everything is eligible. However, like I showed you the dust guidelines module, so whatever for which the guidelines are there right now, those varieties only can get protected. So yeah, for other varieties, it's still not very clear because the guidelines are only not there. But broadly speaking, fruits are also there, flowers are also there, trees and herbs are also there. And then we need to know about the PV search. I think I showed you how basic PV search can be done. Another question is registration or rights given to any individual or association as same as GI? So like I said, GI is more of to recognize and acknowledge the cultural and the historical relevance of a particular product or thing, whatever we are discussing, while plant variety rights are to cherish the innovation in the plant domain, where a breeder has spent a lot of years and a lot of time in developing a variety. So it's similar to other IP rights given to a breeder, which in turn can be given to an employer of the breeder if it's an employee, or can be transferred to anybody else, and that becomes an applicant. Monsanto seed case in brief, we just discussed about it. What is the validity of registrations and annual renewals? Like we discussed, the validity of registration is 15 and 20 years, depending on the type of crop. Annual renewals, absolutely, renewals are there. And interestingly, that it's very complicated in this domain. It is currently associated with some amount of revenue being generated and aspects, so it's challenging. Can you search okra variety? Yes, there are a lot of okra variety Pallavi, that are registered and pending registrations. I'm aware of them, of those parts. But like we saw, we can do one thing. I can show you the registered varieties in the registered applications that we're able to search. Just hold for a moment if we can find. I'll show you the okra varieties. Okra is one of the most registered crop or the vegetable variety. Okra tomato. Let me just see if it's possible. commerce is not showing. I'm still not able to locate it, but yeah, it's there. Is there any course of to learn PVP procedures? I'm sorry, I'm not aware of any particular course in this front. Any other question? Any comment? Any experiences you would like to share?
Hello, participants. Anyone has any more question? Please go ahead. Okay. Now there is no more questions. Okay, there is one question in the chat box.
What average number of farmers are registering under this act? I'll just show you the data itself. Sorry, it's just search again. So here you can see that this is the certificates issued as of 10 June 2025. This is the date, and you can see that more than 50% is your farmers varieties only. So yeah, farmers are very active. The organizations like ICR, etc., are very much active in India, and don't think that the farmer is the one who does not understand anything. There are challenges, but still, there are organizations helping them and enabling them. Let's try for okra once more. Like it shows there. Somehow it's not allowing me to search only. So yeah, here you can see these all are the okra varieties. Some are extant varieties also. And I'll show you some new varieties. Like this is a new variety by New Zealand, KOH1003, which is a private sector and it's a registered variety. Compared to foreign farmers in India PVP, see, like I said, farmer aspect is actually very specific to India only, that you have a recognition from a farmer's variety. Otherwise, it's just breeders. So, breeder is a farmer only. And the question I think would be that whether is there any challenge for the breeders also or not in the plant variety or the patent regime in the plant innovation? The answer is absolutely. There is always some sort of challenges, and we have seen in the international community also breeders are taking active participation when these rights are being discussed. How to better harmonize them so that better food security and other aspects of the breeding ecosystems can be maintained. But farmers' rights are specific to India, at least to my knowledge. There may be some other country I'm not aware of. Okay. Fine. Any other point? think we concluded a bit early since it was virtual. Less questions.
Okay, any more questions, participants?
So, are you guys have some experience in the domain of biotech at least? Uh, or you are from the different domain altogether?
I think there is no more questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Feel free to reach out in case you want to discuss or have any doubts or any comments for that matter, and we can definitely take questions offline as well. You have my contact number and everything. Just feel free to reach out. So yeah, and if you're working in the domain, in a biotech domain as well, always keep your eyes open for all the different types of IP that can be there, and how better we can use it for the welfare of the humankind and for the better society. PVP is known as the term, but procedures are yet to be explored. Yeah, it's still a lot of complications are there in the process because it was physical. Recently, it has gone online. So, but yeah, it's there are options, and in plant varieties in tissue culture also, if you're working, always there are options to have an IP protections if it all it qualifies all the benchmarks. So keep your eyes open and think if you're doing something better, how you can protect it, and if because it can be used for some further investment sources as well, if at all it's a good invention. So yeah, thank you very much for being patient and listening throughout, and for good questions. Uh, Hope you all have a good day. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Udit, sir, for the insightful and enriching session. Your deep understanding of plant variety have truly added immense value to today's discussion. And your presentation underscored the powerful message that plant variety protection is a catalyst for innovation. Thank you, sir, for your clear explanation of how granting breeders legal rights over a new plant variety directly boost investment has deeply resonated. Also, thank you, participants, for your active involvement and insightful and thoughtful questions. Sir, you have inspired our community, academics, researcher, and students to explore legal framework and breeding science with the fresh determination. Once again, thank you, sir, for sharing your expertise and for leading us toward a deeper appreciation of plant variety protection transformative potential. Uh,
Yeah, thank you so much. It's actually very nice initiative, I must say, by the ISC
yes.
and the Saurashtra University. Very nice. Thank you for inviting.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir. We are ending the meeting now.
Okay, thank you.